You ever get the feeling that history has been edited? Not just shaped by the victors, but actively rewritten, with certain stories conveniently erased? Well, buckle up, because today we're digging into one of the most mysterious, controversial, and potentially game-changing lost texts in Christian history, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. This isn't just some dusty old manuscript. It's a 2,000-year-old time bomb, buried for centuries, ignored by the church, and still sending shockwaves through scholars and theologians today. Why? Because it doesn't just mention Mary Magdalene. It paints her as one of the most important figures in Jesus' inner circle, someone who understood his message on a deeper level than most, someone who received secret knowledge from him, someone who saw the truth when others were still struggling to grasp it. And the implications? Massive. This gospel hints at a power struggle in the early church, one that shaped the entire future of Christianity. And if Mary's version of events had won, Christianity today might look very, very different. So let's get into it. For over 1,500 years, nobody even knew this gospel existed. There was no mention of it in churches, no copies in monasteries. It was like it had been completely erased from history. Until 1896, when a German scholar named Karl Reinhardt stumbled across something strange in an Egyptian marketplace. He bought a bundle of ancient manuscripts from an antiquities dealer because, believe it or not, that's how a lot of history is found. Inside that bundle, the Gospel according to Mary. Reinhardt took it back to Berlin, and when scholars finally translated it, they realized they were holding something explosive. This wasn't like the four Gospels in the Bible. It was different, it was cryptic, and it gave a completely unique perspective on Jesus' message. But here's the frustrating part. When they started reading it, they found huge gaps. The first 6 pages were gone. Another 4 pages in the middle, also missing. Imagine finding a secret book of history, only to realize half of it has been ripped out. Coincidence? Maybe. Deliberate erasure? Also possible. Because what remains is already radical. And if the missing pages contain something even more controversial, we'll never know. All right, now that we know where this text came from, let's talk about what's inside it. Because this isn't just some casual retelling of Jesus' life. It's a complete rewrite of his teachings. In this gospel, Jesus doesn't talk about sin and salvation. He doesn't tell people to follow church leaders or obey strict religious laws. Instead, he teaches something way deeper. The material world is an illusion. True enlightenment comes from within. Religious rules are traps that keep people spiritually asleep. The soul's journey after death is about breaking free, not facing judgment. And the most shocking part, Jesus doesn't entrust this knowledge to a large crowd. He gives it privately to Mary, and that's where the real controversy begins. At one point in the gospel, Mary starts telling the other disciples what Jesus taught her in private, secret knowledge that they never heard. Peter, not convinced. He literally says, did he really speak privately with her and not openly to us? In other words, why would Jesus share something with Mary that he didn't share with the rest of us? Peter refuses to believe that Jesus would pass on critical knowledge in private. And another disciple, Levi, responds with, if the Savior made her worthy, who are you to reject her? This isn't just a disagreement. This is a power struggle over who truly understood Jesus' message and who had the authority to share it. And if this gospel is telling the truth, it means that from the very beginning of Christianity, there were competing interpretations of what Jesus really taught. And what happened? One version of events survived, the other was erased. The teachings that emphasized personal enlightenment and direct spiritual knowledge were buried. And what do we get instead? A very structured, hierarchical Christianity where access to divine truth was controlled by religious leaders. Convenient, right? Now, some people might say, if this gospel was so important, why isn't it in the Bible? Fair question. Here's the answer. The Bible wasn't chosen by Jesus. It was chosen by a committee. The New Testament we have today wasn't finalized until the 4th century, over 300 years after Jesus' death. And the people who made the final cut? Roman bishops, emperors, and religious leaders with very clear agendas. They didn't just include books, they excluded a lot of them, including the Gospel of Mary. Why? Because it didn't fit their version of Christianity. A Christianity where obedience was more important than personal enlightenment. A Christianity where a hierarchy of leaders controlled religious knowledge. A Christianity where some teachings had to be buried to maintain unity. So this gospel got buried, literally, and if it weren't for that random discovery in 1896, we probably wouldn't even know it existed. So what does this mean? Here's the real takeaway. This gospel wasn't lost by accident. It was erased on purpose, because it told a different story. A story where Jesus wasn't about rules and fear, he was about awakening and self-knowledge. The church wasn't necessary, spirituality was personal and direct. The message of Christianity might have been far broader and more mystical than what we were taught. And that changes everything. So the next time someone tells you history is set in stone, just remember, sometimes the truth has to be dug up. Thanks for watching. We're a new channel, so if you enjoyed this or it made you think, please take a nanosecond to hit that like button